There are very few car brands that carry with them such a strong emotion as Lamborghini. The flagship, the Lamborghini Aventador, is set to be replaced in 2020, but there have been some delays which we will talk about a little later in this video. In this video, we're going to explore where Lamborghini is headed when it comes to its design. What direction are they going? We're going to sketch up a concept Lamborghini of what I think the next generation Lamborghini Aventador will look like. I'll also explain the reasoning behind the design. Before we do that, there is something I want to show you, something that will be useful when designing a Lamborghini. That would be the Lamborghini design DNA. So let's get started. The design of a Lamborghini is very unique and distinct. Even if you're not an avid car fan, you most likely know what car it is when you see a Lamborghini rolling down the street. But where did this brand identity come from? How did they manage to get the models look so different and yet very familiar? Well, it all starts with a man named Marcello Gandini. Marcello Gandini is an Italian car designer with some of the most iconic and beautiful car designs to his name. He joined the automotive design house Bertone in the 1960s and stayed there for 14 years, during which he worked with several car manufacturers designing cars such as the Lamborghini Miura, the Lancia Stratos, Ferrari Dino, and the first BMW 5 Series, the E12. He was also responsible for cars such as the Renault 5 Turbo, the Bugatti EB110, and the only Porsche ever to be designed by Bertone, the 1966 Porsche 911 Roadster. When it comes to the DNA of Lamborghini, Gandini had a vision of a design which silhouette consisted of a single unbroken line from the tip of the nose all the way to the tail. He was also the founder of the classic scissor doors. However, it wasn't originally fitted on a Lamborghini, but on the Alfa Romeo Carabo concept car of 1968. The modern Lamborghinis are all inspired by the lines of the 1974 Countach. There are a few lines that have carried over throughout the decades from the Countach to the Diablo to the Gallardo, Murcielago, and more recently, the Aventador and the Huracan. Let me show you these lines and how we will use them in our own redesign for this video. The most dominant line of any mid-engine Lamborghini is the roofline looking at the car from a side view. This has been a trademark line for the brand since the 1970s up until today. Other key lines of Lamborghinis are the inverted hood lines, as you can see on the front views. These lines highlighted in red usually goes from wider at the top near the windscreen to narrow in the nose, but on Lamborghinis they do the opposite. These, along with a few other design features, have been around for the past half century of Lamborghini, and I doubt they will go anywhere soon, which is why we need to keep them in mind in this redesign. Now, looking to today's models and future designs of the cars, we have a hint of what direction we're going by looking at concept cars, specifically the Terzo Millennio. I think the new Aventador will get a lot of inspiration from this concept, although toned down a bit for production. The angular design will still continue, but with a cleaner approach and less separate parts. My favorite most recent Lamborghini design is the Gallardo. I love the minimalistic design of the car, the clean, almost flat surfaces and straight, sharp lines. That's the design language we're going to go with in this redesign, but with a modern touch with hints from the recent Lamborghini concept cars. Alright, so here we are in Photoshop, and let's start by using this white pressurized brush to just scribble down some lines, get the proportions down, and kind of see where we want to go with this sketch. I think a really good or an effective way of sketching like this in Photoshop is to first do this, so get the lines down, and don't worry about perspective or anything like that. Just get going and get the lines down on the canvas so that it doesn't seem intimidating, because when it's empty it's kind of intimidating to just start sketching, but once you get a few lines on there, everything just seems to flow a lot easier. And that's what I'm doing right here. So I want to get the lines down first, and what I'm going to do after this is go in with an airbrush. And since Lamborghini is such an angular design, it's kind of like there are several flat surfaces facing different directions. So what we need to do is to simply figure out the light source of where we want this and where we want the light to come from. And then since most of these surfaces are almost flat, it kind of helps us a lot when we're going in with the airbrush. We just need to separate all these surfaces and put the right value on them one by one once we have these line work done. And what's that going to do? What that is going to do is the line work is slowly going to fade away, and we just use it as an underlay for the sketch. So these lines at the end of this sketch, they're not going to be visible at all because they're on a separate layer. So all I got to do is use this template, if you want to call it that, and just fill it in with airbrush. And then at the end of the sketch, when I'm done with the airbrush, I just turn off this layer and boom, we have a car rendering that looks super clean. I want to share a story from the time when I was studying car design in Italy and how the work of a couple of students there, the year before I got there, went into the production version of the Huracan. So, this was in 2009. I was studying there 2010 to 2011. Rosie's behind the camera, so it's probably wobbling a little bit. Anyway, I was studying there from 2010 to 2011. And so each year we get an assignment from Lamborghini. Specifically, this school was sponsored by Lamborghini, Audi, and Volkswagen. So we did a project with each and every one of these companies. So at the end of the year, they give the school a brief. For example, Volkswagen was looking for a small transportation car. Audi was looking for a small city car, and Lamborghini, I think, was looking for, I think it was a front engine something. I can't remember. I did a front engine, but I don't think everybody did it. And then at the end of the year, we create a clay model, maybe this big or something, that is then presented to the head of design for Lamborghini. He comes over and checks everything out, see if there's any ideas, any people he wants to recruit to the company, and so on. So the year before I was there, these two guys created a concept car, the Lamborghini Knossos. And this design in particular caught the design director of Lamborghini's eye, because he thought something was interesting about it, and I think it must have been some of the graphic elements of the car. They had worked with this car over the past year to build up the concept and the model of the Knossos concept, and then present it to the design chief of Lamborghini. And the thing is, the parts of this car you can see today is in the production versions of Lamborghini. So I get questions every day, how do I become a car designer, and what do I need to do to create cars that are out on the road, and how do I design the next Lamborghini, for example. So this is how he did it. He went to school in Italy, created a concept of a Lamborghini, showed it to the Lamborghini officials who were in charge of design. They liked it, they took him in, he actually started working there after his graduation, obviously, and I think he still works there. I'm not sure. I know he worked there when I was there, which was a year later. But you can see that some of the graphical elements of this Knossos, for example, the rear lights, are very specific for the design, and that then went into the SC18 car that we've seen right now this year, 2019, based on the Aventador. You can see at the rear, it's pretty much the same kind of light. And also the Huracan itself, the rear light of that car has that Y shape that we see more and more now in Lamborghinis, and something that I think is going to be even more implemented in the design language of Lamborghini moving forward, as you're gonna see in this redesign that we're making right here. This is my idea of what direction Lamborghini is gonna go. To answer the question, how do I become a car designer? First of all, you need to have a strong passion for sketching, because I remember we sketched daily, obviously. You sketch every single day, and you might sketch anywhere from 15 to 20 minimum sketches per day over the course of a year. So you get some really good sketching exercises, and you get to practice sketching a lot. So it's important that you really enjoy sketching, because it's a big part of car design. It's a bigger part of car design than it is of industrial design. Industrial design is more of a problem solution approach to design, while car design is more of identity and emotion and feelings when you see the product. Because every single car, when you see a car, it needs to have a personality, and it needs to give you a feeling when you see it. So Lamborghini, you see that it's this menacing, aggressive styling to it, sharp, almost like a razor on wheels or something like that. So that's the difference between car design and product design. Product design is more of a solution-based design, and more, I would say, more towards function than a car is. A car is more of a sculpture, because the function is already there. The function of a car is just the wheels and the platform, and then you have yes, you have all the practicalities such as load, capacity and stuff like that. But especially sports car, they're not practical at all. People buy sports cars, and specifically supercars, for the way the car makes them feel. So it's more of a feeling based design, I would say. So you need to enjoy sketching, you need to practice sketching every single day, but at the same time, you don't need to have your sketching be perfect, because I know car designers that have cars out on the streets today that they've designed, and their sketches doesn't look, they don't look 100%, and that's not the point in some cases, because the idea of what you're trying to communicate is more important than the quality of your lines and the quality of your perspective, for example. But the better that gets, the easier it is for you to communicate that idea. So sketching is an essential part, I would say, in any kind of design, but more specifically in car design, because it's a lot more focus on styling. It's both styling and functionality, but it tilts over a little bit more towards styling when it comes to car design. So what I did to get into car design, the university in Italy, was first of all study industrial design, which gave me all the fundamentals of manufacturing methods. You have user tests, you have all these Excel sheets, which I just did not care. I did not care at all about that. All I wanted to do was just sketch every day. So I just doodled in my notes and didn't really care about anything else than that. After I finished that, I decided that was 3 years of a bachelor in industrial design. And after that, I decided I really like cars. I love to sketch cars. I love the feeling the specific cars give me. How a different car can give me a happy feeling, how another can give me a Lambo feeling, which you're kind of scared of the design of the car. I love that, and I want to be a part of that. So I decided to go into car design. So what I did is I took the schools that I wanted to go to, apply to. I looked what kind of companies were sponsoring them. So in this case, Lamborghini, Volkswagen, Audi. For the time, I wanted to go there too. They are a big BMW school that's in Germany. I wanted to apply there too. So what I did is I looked at BMW and I looked at Lamborghini, Audi, and Volkswagen, and kind of tried to figure out what kind of project can I put in my portfolio that would attract these companies. So that's what I did, and I eventually obviously got into SPD in Milan, so I moved down to Italy for a year. So that's how I got into a master's degree in car design. It's really those steps. I think you first of all need to study industrial design. I'm pretty sure that's almost a requirement if you want to jump up to car design. They might have changed now, but I remember that everybody has to pretty much get the basics of industrial design first, because that gives you the fundamentals of how design works, and then you can kind of figure out where within this whole industrial design field you want to focus on. So with this redesign, Lamborghini, I think they could go with the successor or replacement for the Huracan and the Aventador. I think they can go two ways. So they can either go totally crazy, even more crazy than the concepts that they have now, although I can't really see that working in production. But you never know with Lamborghini, they can do crazy stuff like that. Or they can go the more subtle way, which is moving back towards the styling of the Murcielago and the Gallardo, which is a more solid, structured piece that looks like one block. That they started with one block and then just carved out the entire car from a block of whatever, and go that way and have more smooth and clean surfaces and lines. And that's the approach that I'm choosing to go with in this redesign. This might even be a more of a successor to a Huracan than an Aventador because of the subtle styling. Not subtle, it's not subtle, but it's a simple styling, more like the Gallardo's type of styling than it is, for example, an Aventador SVJ, which has a lot of wings and flaps and intakes and lines everywhere to it, or the Sesto Elemento, for example. That's an even better example. So that's the approach I wanted to take with this redesign. And I think now, if you want to become a car designer, I think now is probably a very good time to get in, because as I said before, we're in this transition between combustion and electric. And as a matter of fact, Lamborghini is the only supercar, one of the big supercar manufacturers that hasn't adopted the electric powertrain yet, or at least the hybrid version. We have McLaren with the P1, we have Porsche with the Taycan, I think I think that's what it's called, and which else? Ferrari with the LaFerrari, and then we have Lamborghini. They have a concept, the Terzo Millennio, of course, but they haven't put any electric power into production yet. So that's the reason why they are delayed with the successor of the Aventador, because I think they have some emission regulation issues. They don't want to spend money developing a brand new V12 for the next 15 years if it's not gonna pass regulation in 10 years in European regulations. So what they're thinking about now is putting a V8 from Porsche, that they're collaborating with Porsche to put that one V8 into both the Huracan successor and the Aventador successor, and kind of have them have a different tune or something like that, instead of creating a brand new V8. But of course they need to go into the electric field pretty soon, because that's inevitable. It's going to happen sooner or later. And I think the sooner they do it, the more competitive their models are going to be when you look at the rest of the car manufacturers and how far they already are when it comes to electric powertrains. So here we are. This is the redesign or slash new successor to the whole Lamborghini design language. I'm pretty sure that they will make these Y-shaped headlights or running lights in their coming models, because we see them more and more in details in Lamborghinis, and we see them in the concept cars. It's just a matter of time when they're going to put them in the production versions of the brand. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for spending a few minutes with me today. If you want to learn how to sketch either with pen, marker, and paper, or with Photoshop and tablet, you can check out the course linked below. I have a course bundle where you can learn everything from perspective to line quality to circles, ellipses, and all of that good stuff. I also have all the tools that I use here linked below in the Amazon store down there, so you can go check that out if you want to. I'm the Sketch Monkey, and I hope to see you in the next video. Take it easy.